your quick introduction?
Sure. Great. So let me hit the share Chrome tab.
John, you are muted again for some reason.
Okay, yes, there's an interesting problem where screen share wants to stop me from talking once I share a screen. Okay, so welcome everyone, our last meeting of this year. I'm going to do a very brief overview because I think most people are on this call have been very active with us for a while. But this movement, the movement for community-led development, was really inspired by the words of Mahatma Gandhi, whose last message to us is think of the face of the poorest person you've ever seen and ask yourself whether the actions you contemplate will restore her to control over her own life and destiny. And the way most development had been done had systematically denied her voice in the decisions that affect her life. For many, many parts of the world, there isn't even any meaningful local governance at the community level. So we launched this in 2015 with 5 goals: voice and agency for women, youth, marginalized groups, adequate community finance, at least a 20% share of public resources going directly into the hands of community leaders, good local governance, quality public services, and the kinds of information and capacity strengthening that communities need to be resilient to shocks. We have 75 global INGOs that are members, and many of them work to help support country chapters. And we have country chapters organized where there are these green countries, and where there are orange countries, we have people who are participating who are looking at organizing formal chapters. So that's really the movement, and we have more than 1,500 community-based organizations in these national chapters, and really today is going to be entirely focused on the kinds of strategies that the national chapters are building. So with that, back to you, Anne.
Okay, great. Okay, welcome everyone. I know most of you, and if I don't know you, I'm very excited you're here and participating. We are going to launch right into our plan today, which is an exciting one, and I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen? Good. All right, so if you are a French or Spanish speaker, we have a lot of people who understand English pretty well, maybe as their 4th or 5th language, but they would prefer to do the breakout groups in French or Spanish. And so you can put FR in front of your name in Zoom if you know how to do that, or ES if you want to be in a French or Spanish breakout group later in the meeting. And if you don't know how to do that, just put it in the chat and we will follow that. And please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. So today's agenda, first off, I have curated a lot of photos of animals with umbrellas because I often show animal pictures, and we're talking about the umbrella strategy. So turns out there's a lot on the internet. Look forward to some highlights there. We're going to do an overview of the national chapter strategy, the new national umbrella chapter strategy. We're going to get orientations from the Change the Game Academy and Network Weaver. And we are going to, let me just stop my thing here. We are going to have breakout groups to discuss this new chapter. So I'm going to talk a little bit fast, so excuse me if I'm talking too fast for you. Our new national chapter umbrella strategy is going to go from 2022 to 2026. It's an emergent strategy, so we just got the first few years sort of sketched out in more detail, and then we will co-create it as it goes along. in a systems-friendly way. So just a quick overview for those of you who are new, like Luann and others. Why national chapters? And one of the reasons we have national chapters is because we believe a healthy society has three strong and interconnected elements: civil society, government, and private sector. And national chapters are a way for domestic civil society to make sure government and private sector, as well as civil society, are meeting the needs of the people. Also, in response to requests from our members, I put some information in here in Spanish in green and French in red. And I know I'm talking fast, but you will have access to these slides later if you want to look back at them. So co-creating our umbrella strategy for the national chapters, we have really come a long way over the past few years. Our national chapters are growing and maturing in number and in sophistication. And so we had an annual strategy before, but now we're graduating to a longer strategic time frame. So as we co-create our umbrella strategy, we live by our key tenets, which are our actions match our words. That's the values and principles of community-led development. We do learning by doing. We focus a lot on learning by doing. And we also find that peer learning across chapters and within chapters is one of our most powerful ways to develop innovations, share knowledge, and stay practical. Each chapter is self-directed and self-governed, and it sets its own priorities, creates its own roadmap, and measures its own progress. So this umbrella strategy is designed to support, not direct, the national chapters. So this strategy can ensure that the chapters get the technical and other support they need from the global movement and from other chapters, and possibly from other friends and partners that we connect with along the way. So our national chapter, our strategy, which we have co-created over the last few months, has three buckets, and each bucket leverages a set of free external resources, and chapters may choose to use these resources to flesh out that piece over the course of several years. So if we're all working from the same set of resources, it can be very strategic with regards to peer learning. And also, as we use them, learning by doing, it represents a major capacity development opportunity for professionals and their organizations while also serving the chapters. So those of you from national chapters, as you're seeking to recruit people to get involved in your chapter, a major incentive, for busy people is that they will learn, they will gain their own professional development skills while they're doing this work. And it can also benefit their organizations as well. So here it is, the big reveal, the three buckets of the national chapter umbrella strategy. Some of you saw this recently in a leadership meeting, but if you didn't, you must be so excited. So here's part one of our three-part emergent strategy. Strong chapters, good bones, we're calling it. Every chapter needs good bones. It needs to have a structure, and we're co-creating what that means, what that structure should look like, because we are a movement, not a project. So we co-create and move forward together. Next, we have generating resources for community-led development, and that's both human resources and financial resources, other kinds of resources, a big one, and not easy. And then the third thing is actually taking action for transformative change, systems change. And altogether, these represent our plan for fostering more and better community-led development in every country. So I'm going to say a little bit more about each of these three pieces, which hopefully you've memorized them by now. Number one, chapter capacities, what we're calling the good bones of a chapter. So a good chapter should be characterized by authentic engagement, trust, shared understanding, values and vision, and accountability. And we already see that in our chapters, and we're constantly learning the many ways that our different chapters make sure all of those things are always at the top of the list. One thing that we've heard is that as we get new members of chapters or people need refreshers, what is community-led development? We can't skip that because it's easy to say like, oh yeah, I think I know what it is by the name, but we want the nuances to be well understood, and we want people to understand how it's a lens to enable transformation. Second is clarity on the movement for community-led development. How does the national chapter fit in, and how important the national chapters are as the central place where change happens country by country. We talked in the past, and we're continuing to talk about every chapter should be able to articulate its own value proposition, answering the so what question. What difference does your chapter make? Why should I join it? What's the point? Why does it matter? And because we're always having to get out there and explain and promote the chapters. The chapters are living by the values and principles of CLD, starting with co-creation. Benin chapter could write a book on that by now. What it really means to co-create. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes skills, and it results in way better quality everything. There's a unique strategy for each chapter. So each chapter needs to know what its strategy is and its context, and it includes priorities, tactics, and actions, and often pioneering approaches in each country, because in many countries where there's chapters, civil society really hasn't come together in ways like this much in the past. So it calls for some pioneering work. Each chapter needs to think about what the fiduciary structure is of the chapter, and there's a lot of alternatives there. Each chapter should be tracking progress, and chapters should be having regular meetings and representing the chapter in different ways, including globally. So that's number one. Think about it. Do you remember what number two is? What is number two? Number two is, oh, I forgot. This is, each chapter comes with its external resources. So for this one external resource we're focusing on is Liberating Structures. And if you've never heard of Liberating Structures, it's been around for a long time. There's tons of free resources, lots of peer support. They have a Slack site that has 7,000 people on it. You ask one question, you get like 30 answers. And Liberating Structures are ways to introduce tiny shifts in the way we meet, plan, decide, and relate to one another. And they put the innovative power once reserved for experts only in the hands of everyone. And again, a lot of these are just simple ways to design meetings and run meetings or events so that they're truly participatory and not top down. Okay, number two, generating needed resources, human, financial, and more. So we can think about resources in terms of human, in terms of partnerships, in terms of funding, and in terms of in-kind and other arrangements. And so it may be for the chapter, and it may be for the members that these resources are generated. And the idea is that the chapter doesn't necessarily implement projects or compete with members, but the chapters do activities, they do advocacy, and they do representation. So it can be a little unclear within the chapters, like, are we raising money for us or for our members or whatever? And everybody needs to get clear on that and discuss it and understand the nuances there. Within each country, we're focusing on this resource generation. Why? Because we have had terrible luck with international fundraising because of competition and because of, all these compliance mechanisms and everything. So kind of one sort of general recommendation is don't spend time on big international applications unless you have guaranteed funding up front, because we just have learned from experience that as much as people want to, and organizations want to give that funding, it often doesn't pan out. However, on the bright side, domestically, there's a lot that can be done, and we're going to hear more about that from Change the Game Academy. So that includes raising money from domestic partnerships within countries, and also working with international actors who have offices in that country. The Benin chapter recently had good success with getting some of its members connecting with the Swiss cooperation agency that is based in Benin, developing a relationship, and then getting funded in a very exciting way to do community-led development with 20 members of the Benin chapter. So thank you, Benin, for that inspiring example. So we're going to hear more about working with Change the Game Academy so that we can all improve our skills and strategies around this. And as you can see, multiple languages. So thank you, Change the Game Academy, for making sure that these materials are all available in multiple languages. The third thing is the third bucket, which is taking action and making progress. So collaborating, learning, and adapting to transformatively change systems. This is where the action happens. So within a chapter country, that means implementing the chapter strategy and adapting it as needed, using regular communication, collaboration, and co-creation to keep everything together and moving forward, and using systems-based approaches to change. And then within the global movement and beyond, it includes representing the chapter, peer learning across chapters, which has turned out to be a huge value add of the national chapters working together. Getting technical support on demand. The capacity is usually really there, more than you can imagine, but so that's why, you know, when chapter members or chapters ask, we need help with this one thing, that's where we offer technical support on demand. And then also chapters deserve recognition and solidarity in their members. And again, when we started this, we hadn't realized how powerful that recognition and solidarity is. And we want to make sure that we offer it. So the external resources that come with bucket 3 are network weaving. So we're going to hear more about that from June in a minute. So I'm not going to say anything else about that, but except to say thank you already to June and her colleagues for creating these incredible materials that they're all offered for free. And they're just really world-class materials and super accessible. And then, as I think any of you know, we often use the water of systems change. It turns out that this is really something that has resonated in a lot of chapters. It's the 6 conditions of systems change, and very useful tool. And now even the Benin chapter is pegging everything that it does to one of these 6 conditions of systems change. So if you don't know about that, we can help you understand that more too. It's a very useful tool. So now let me stop there because we have presentations from Change the Game Academy and from Network Weavers. So as you probably remember, although I did speak fast, Change the Game Academy is linked to the bucket of resource generation, and Network Weaver is linked to the bucket of taking action for transformative systems change. So let me stop sharing, and why don't we, let's see, we're going to Change the Game Academy. So we're going to ask Esther and Sharon to take over. And welcome to those of you who hadn't had a chance to welcome yet. It's great to see everybody. Okay, Esther and Sharon, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Anne. Sharon, do you want to introduce yourself before I start with the presentation?
Yes, sir. So once more, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. My name is Sharon Nolan, and I'm coming from Change the Game. As you can see my background, so we always represent Change the Game Academy wherever we go. So I am a consultant at the Academy. I represent Kenya, where I started from. So I have been working for the program for the past 5 years as an in-country trainer, and now I have moved to the level of supporting global activities. So I support capacity building for trainers at the global level, but also still do trainings at the local level for my country, Kenya. So I look forward to working with you and sharing with you some of the impact stories that we have had, and also the benefits of joining Change the Game Academy. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. My name is Esther. I'm with Wild Ganzen in the Netherlands. And I will share a bit about our work under Change the Game Academy, set a bit of the background and the international scene, and then I will hand over to Sharon, who will share more about experience in practice. Let me share my screen. Hope you can see this now correctly. Trying to change the presentation mode. Yeah. So we are a Dutch organization, Dutch grant maker, and
Okay, Esther, we're not seeing the presentation mode screen. We're seeing your main screen.
oh, that's strange. Let me try again.
You may have two screens and are sharing the wrong one or something.
Oh, that may, I was in the earlier on with two screens. Sharon, is it possible for you to share the presentation that I sent? Or I send it to Anne? Shall I do that and I just start talking meanwhile?
Yeah, Jeffrey, I could see yours perfectly, so.
You saw it?
I saw it.
I also saw it.
But not the presentation mode. We saw the whole, your whole desktop.
Okay.
But if you have to, you can show it. We could still
we'll go with the desktop. I'll see if not to lose too much time here. So we are a Dutch organization, Dutch grant maker, and we started on this journey of domestic resource mobilization because we saw with problems around international funding, it's very hard for organizations in the Global South, especially smaller ones, to access that funding, as Anne already pointed out. But also with so much funding going through other actors, northern actors, bigger actors, actors that are not very close to communities, there's a lot of power dynamics at play. And as an organization, you risk working donor-driven if you only need to apply for funding and for specific projects and proposals, and you sort of go from project to project. So we thought, if we say we want to make ourselves redundant, is it going to happen if we only give grants? And we started from that perspective, promoting domestic resource mobilization, also knowing that giving is something that is part of so many cultures for centuries. It's not something that's only practiced by wealthy people. There's so much solidarity in so many cultures and countries, etc. So we saw an opportunity there, and also with the rise of middle class, etc. So we started promoting domestic resource mobilization from 2006, and the 4 organizations listed at the top of this list were part of that very initial journey. And based on our first experiences, we have co-created together the Change the Game Academy, which is a program that offers capacity strengthening on 2 subjects, local fundraising and lobby and advocacy, which we call mobilizing support. At the moment, the family has grown, so there's training trajectories offered in 12 countries, and you see the partners that we work with. And next to what we offer in countries, there's also the online component of an e-learning platform with e-learning courses, resources, etc., all around local fundraising and mobilizing domestic other types of support. I think what is maybe nice it's based on so many years of experience on those issues, and also very practice focused. So I like what you said before, Anne, on values, practice what you preach, or have your actions in line with your words, but also peer learning and learning by doing are important values. And I think we fully embrace that. It's very important to apply what you learn and not just stick to a training, but really see how it can be applied in practice. And maybe to start, what has really emerged for us ever since we started from 2006 are 2 important lessons learned. I've shared this before when I was here in April, but it's maybe nice to share that again. When we started off, we thought it was in places like Mumbai and Nairobi and the bigger cities where there are so many good opportunities to raise funding. But it turned out that actually to mobilize resources from communities, from people that are really close to organizations, really close to the change you want to see, proved easier to get that going and start off and get them excited, and local businesses who are very close to your organization. But more importantly, when we started off, we thought this is about financial sustainability of organizations, and it is, but actually it's about so much more. And raising resources within your own context, within your own country, really brings so many changes other than only the financial benefits. So I'll hand over to Sharon now to talk a bit more about the changes that we see when organizations start raising resources locally. Sharon?
Thank you, Esther. Maybe if you move to slide 7, please. So I'd like to share with you a story of one of the organizations that has gone through the Change the Game Academy program. The organization comes from the Koilale community, and they are within the Mara Conservancy. So the community is 10 kilometers away from the Masai Mara Conservancy. So in that community, maybe just to paint a picture of that community, most of the time they have conflicts with the wildlife. Schools are spread very far away, so children have to travel long distances to reach that community. And most important, we know that that is a pastoralist community. So in the mindset of people, we would always say that they do not have money. So when you ask them for money, you're most likely not to get that money. So this would be a challenge for such a community, especially if they have to do things like classroom construction, improve their health facilities and the likes. So this community realized that at the end of the day, their children were suffering. They were not accessing education. They could not access basic healthcare. So they reached out to Kenya Community Development Foundation, who is a partner of Change the Game Academy in Kenya. And for them, they wanted to get grants to support the construction of a classroom. Unfortunately, they were told that they were too much, and that was not good news for them, because they feel they are not able to give in cash, but they have other resources. So they went back and checked. So how do we get the money? Because they were required to raise Kenya shilling 700,000, and KCDF was to give them Kenya shilling 700,000 to match that the bit that came from the community. So they went back and checked, what do we have as a community? And what they had was cows, goats, sheep. So they checked again, so what can we do with our goats, with our sheep, with our cows? So everyone said I can give my goat, somebody said I can give my calf, somebody said I can give my bull, and they collected all these animals. But the sizes were quite small, because most of them would give you the young ones, as opposed to giving you the fully developed animals. So they gave out either a kid, or gave a baby sheep, or they gave a calf. So they had to keep this and fatten it before they could trade it to get the money that they needed. Because for you to get the match grant, you have to put in this shilling into the KCDF account, which is matched with the bit that is given. So they collected all the animals, and all these animals were fattened and then sold. And they were able to raise Kenya shilling 600,000 from the sale of these animals. They approached the conservancy within the Mara, and they were given Kenya shillings 200,000. And this match was matched with what was needed to get their money. So this process built trust amongst the community members, because they felt that if I give my cow, it's easy to account for it as opposed to giving my shilling. So they preferred to give their animals. But at the end of it all, they were able to translate all this into tangible shillings that was shared with, that was deposited into the KCDF account, and they were able to construct a classroom. So right now they have ECD classes near the community homes where their children can go to school. And from that process, this community has managed to construct a health center after that. They have managed to construct a trade center within the Mara Conservancy where their women can go and do business. and make some income. Part of it is given to the women who trade within that area. And as you see on this slide, right now they have been able to raise 10,400,000 Kenya shillings as at last year. So that has been progress for the community and has drawn the attention of the government. So the government is invited when they launch the projects, and sometimes we say that is like shaming. So they feel that this is something that we should have done as a government, but the community went ahead and did it. So it challenges the government to now start working with the community. So the government has now partnered with the community and is sending teachers in those community. The schools have been recognized by government, and now they receive resources towards education of their children. So they have drawn partnership even from the private sector, where they receive support from the private sector to support their projects. Isuzu was there last year. So they have been able to draw the attention of other actors who feel that they are doing something positive and are willing to support them in this journey, to finish the journey with them. So that is an example of a community where normally they would be seen as not being able to mobilize resources or to contribute towards the development by the nature of their social practices, their norms, and their cultures. But they overcame that myth, and now they are a community that has demonstrated that we have the capacity as a community to create change within our communities. We don't have to wait for somebody to come from outside to come and address our issues. We can start the journey, and they help us finish the race, or they come and bridge the gap where we are. So I wanted to share with you that story, and I hope that we can see the possibilities within our communities. And we say that it can be in cash, it can be in kind, it can be in volunteer time, human resources. I know, like in my context, volunteering is not like a very good practice. We don't have volunteers most of the time until very late, but it is possible. If only we look in and check what we have, then we can use it to trigger change within our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. And apologies for the problem with the screen. I hit some button earlier today, I think, and apparently I was on two screens. Maybe do you still see slides?
No.
No, you need to share.
Okay, I'll share. So we have an online platform, changethegameacademy.org, where the e-learning for local fundraising and mobilizing support is available. It's accessible free of charge. So all you need to do is create a login, and you can access the learning. It's available in 6 languages. And it really helps you, if you can see, I hope you can see this slide now. These are the elements of the fundraising course. So it really takes you through different types of donors, communication strategies. How do you build strong relationship with donors? How do you pitch your organizations? How do you inspire people to contribute to the work that you're doing? How do you get your message across, win people's hearts? Because then eventually the money or the resources or whatever type of contribution will follow. And it's very practice focused. It will take you through exercises, movies, etc., and also take you through the different steps of building your fundraising plan. So if you go through all the modules, at the end you will come out with a practical plan on how to start on this journey of mobilizing resources. And Sharon and I have been meeting with Anne, and we are discussing on how we could somehow organize a collective learning journey for members of the movement for community-led development. Supported by Sharon also, who can share her knowledge and expertise in this area as one of the Change the Game Academy trainers. Sharon, do you want to add anything to that? I think that's first. We've lost Sharon. And we hand it over back to you.
Great. Thank you so much. And that is so exciting. You have so much practical experience, and your materials are designed for the kind of people and organizations that are from our national chapter. So we're really excited about this partnership. And we really, oh, Sharon's coming back now. We look forward to building this out, and, you know, rather than individual chapter members taking the courses by themselves, we want to do some kind of coordinated effort, and appreciate your offer to have Sharon work with us for some hours in order to frame this all out. So thank you so much, Change the Game Academy. And thank you for existing, because you really are uniquely offering something that is completely aligned with community-led development. So thank you. Looking forward to more. Now let me turn it over to June, and June is going to share her slides. Okay, there we go. So yeah, June, we can see that, and yeah, perfect. Thanks.
Okay, great. So I'm so delighted to be here today and to just introduce you to the power and importance of networks in what you do. And really what that means is that the idea of networks just helps you pay attention to relationships. And I think in the Sharon story, you could see how relationships and relationship building was so important to the success of what they were doing. So just a little bit about me. I've been working on networks for over 40 years and have written the book that many of you should have gotten, a free copy, a PDF copy of the Network Weaver Handbook. That's just really has everything that you could need to know about helping networks form. So I've been both a professor, led a large NGO in rural United States, and been an international consultant for now many years. And I've been fortunate enough to have visited both Ghana and Uganda for a UNDP, and just, you know, fell in love with those countries. It was just so wonderful, such a wonderful experience. So there's so many benefits to working in networks, to thinking from a network way. You know, I think part of the 21st century is we're learning that we have to work together. We really need to work together if we're going to make a difference in our communities. And I love to look at nature for examples to learn about networks. And so what we found recently in the last few years is that underneath trees in our forests, there are these mycorrhizal networks that are connecting the trees and enabling them to share resources, so that when a new sprout comes up, the trees send resources to that new sprout so it can grow more quickly. When bugs infest a particular tree, it can send messages to the other trees so they put up their defenses. And so this process of connecting and sharing resources, we call being a network weaver. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that and how you can, I mean, that you already are a network weaver. Each of you already have those skills, but there's also a lot that we're learning as we pay more attention to networks. And another thing is that it's not just networks in your community, as important as that is, it's also really important that you build what we call networks of networks. And really that's what this organization is. You're meeting with people from other countries, other places, being able to learn together, to share, to support each other, to do things that you couldn't do by yourself. Oh, and by the way, these slides, I'm going to put the link to these slides in the chat as soon as I'm done here. And so you'll be able to have access to them, and you're free to use them in any way you can. So basically what you're going to be able to get, you should have gotten a link, and if not, I think you can just tell Anne that you haven't gotten it, for a free copy for the Network Weaver Handbook. But there's also a website called networkweaver.com And if you go to the resources section there, there's dozens and dozens of free resources that you can download, checklists, directions for simple activities, just like the liberating structures kinds of activities. But today I'm just going to real briefly go over some 5 characteristics or roles of network weavers. And I'd love for you, as I just do these real quickly, is like either you could write this down or in your head think, you know, network weaver. If you're already got that skill, and I think many of you will realize you already have some of these skills, and then, you know, learn if it's something that you would really like to learn more about. So the first thing that network weavers do in communities, and I did this both when I was in Ghana and Uganda, is to help people create a map. And it can be a map of the network of people in their community and their connections. And so people get a poster board on the wall, begin to put down names, and then put lines if they are actually connected. But one thing that this is so powerful for is that, you know, when I was in Uganda and people were from 5 countries, well, it wasn't surprising that those folks weren't connected. But what people within each country found out is they were not even connected with other people in the room from their own country. So we spent a lot of time helping people get to know each other during that session. And so it's really important that if you have a map, you can see especially who's missing. Like if you don't have young people in your network, then the group can decide, let's go out and reach out to young people in our community, bring them in so they are part of this network as well. So another thing, and this one, I think all of you are probably pretty skilled at doing, is connecting people. You know, you meet somebody and then you find out, you listen to them, you find out what their interests are, their dreams, what their challenges are. And then you think really carefully, who could I connect them to that could help them with some of these, or work together with them. And you do those kinds of introductions, which we're even starting to do virtually these days. But we call this closing triangles, when you know 2 people and they don't know each other and you bring them together so that they can create energy of their own. And it's a really basic practice. Now, you'll notice down at the bottom of each of these slides, there's a link. And that will take you directly to a resource that will give you exact directions on how to do this particular activity. The third role of a network weaver is to really help create those network values or the community values. And so really to move people from this kind of world of competition and battling each other to a world where about sharing and caring for each other, building relationships, learning how to work together. And the network weaver models this by actually working on their own stuff and learning to be more caring and sharing, and then helping others operate in that way when they're working together. And again, there's an activity here, a nice little checklist that you can use with groups. A fourth one is that you're helping people act and innovate together. A lot of the work that we do is by ourselves. And what network weavers try to encourage people to say, hey, you're interested in trying this out? Why don't you get a group together and I'll help support you in moving to action and making something happen. You know, in networks, we don't all have to do the same thing. Networks are great for experimenting and trying things out and learning from that. And so network weavers really help people learn all those skills that you need for working well together. And then finally, you know, network weavers are always convening people to work, to get to know each other, but also to create a network. And so as you're creating these chapters, you know, you want to engage people in co-designing it. And I've heard talking about Benin has a lot of co-design happening, co-creation. Yes, so it's that kind of activity that is helping people figure out how are we going to communicate with each other? How are we going to make decisions? How are we going to connect with other networks? And so, the Network Weaver Handbook talks about all different kinds. Networks are in all shapes and sizes. Some are very informal, some are more well organized. And you can learn about those different styles of networks and how you can help that happen. And one thing that Ann and I are interested in is, first of all, in helping people understand that being a network weaver can actually be a job. There are many people in great demand now for playing these network weaver functions, and you can actually get paid for doing that. I know I'm really looking for people who want to work internationally and co-facilitate sessions that I'm working on. And so we would really like to come up with some way that we could continue this sort of learning journey together. And so if you are interested in learning more about network weaving, I think Ann's going to be in touch and we'll have some more details about what that might look like soon. Ann, back to you.
Great. Thank you so much, June. And I was so excited about that because those 5 things you describe are the kinds of things that our national chapters are doing. And a lot of people in the national chapters and the leadership of those chapters, they do it because it seems obvious to them, or without even thinking about it, it seems the natural way forward. But the more we can make this explicit with regards to understanding the different elements of it and how we can hone our skills, the more we can come together as chapters in a tighter way than ever and take deliberate and confident action. So yes, I was waiting so we could launch this umbrella strategy, and I have the PDF that you sent me that will be shared with all of our chapter members. And I want to say that it would be great if all of the chapters who are interested in this could identify people that are focal points or people that are interested in this. And it might be people who are not in the leadership of your chapter, but actually if you went to them with this and they said like, yeah, I'm interested in that. And I've been interested in your chapter too, but I've been too busy or I have other things going. Well, this can be a way to really bring it all together across chapters and offer these very practical skills, which could be, career skills. And Sharon is also an example of making a career out of the work that she's been doing with the Change the Game Academy as well. So part of a thriving domestic civil society in every country means there are plenty of professionals who have all these skills who are available to do this work in their countries. There's no need to bring in international consultants to do this kind of work when there's so many great people in every country. So we really want to focus on that practical aspect of it. Okay, so in the interest of time, we are going to switch to breakout groups. And let me share my slide. And we are going to have 3 breakout groups where we're going to discuss some of these things. I'm hoping you can see my slide now. So the breakout groups are going to be along the lines of the three buckets. And also there is the possibility of a French breakout group, I believe, but I know that Sarah is assessing that. I didn't see that there was a call for a Spanish breakout group, but I leave it to everybody to keep in communication with us about what they need. So in your breakout group, you're going to be assigned randomly to either breakout group number 1, which is going to look at chapter capacities. And if someone hasn't done it already, can they put the link to these slides in the chat so that you can access these questions by opening up these slides? The second one is going to be the resource generation issue. And then the third one is the systems change work. So the questions that we're discussing today, because this is, you know, an emergent strategy, which means we're always refining it and adapting it and making it responsive to the people who it's supposed to be helpful to. Does the strategy component seem useful to you? Why or why not? What questions do you still have about that bucket of the umbrella strategy? Key question here, how can the Global Secretariat best support national chapter development in this arena? We need the national chapters to tell us, this is what we want. We want to organize a meeting with June and the Network Weaver people, and or we want to focus on this one aspect of it, or we want to put forward a focal point person to be working with the Change the Game Academy people, and they can bring the learning back to the chapter, whatever, or something that we haven't even talked about today. So how can the Global Secretariat best support the national chapter development? You know, in a lot of development historically, it's been top down. So people are used to waiting for directions from above, but this is the opposite way. We need directions from the national chapters because we are in your service. What will make this work and be useful? Again, practical suggestions, welcome. And what are the pitfalls we can avoid? Because life is full of pitfalls, and if we can see them in advance, we can make sure that we have a strategy or a tactic to avoid those pitfalls. Okay, so you can also take a screenshot of this if you're one of those savvy screenshotting people. And then also, just so you know, in the slide set, there are these questions available in French and Spanish. So I will stop sharing and I will turn to Sarah for guidance on going to the breakout groups. And if we could go to the breakout groups for 20 minutes, that would be great. And also in your breakout group, please take leadership. Somebody facilitate that's not from the global movement. It would be great if you would. And also we hope to have people in there to take notes, but if we don't have a note taker in your group, somebody please take notes and send them so we can act on them.
Okay, the rooms are open. If you're not happy with the language that you have, just come back to the main room and I'll move you.
Can you put me in room 3, the systems one?
Sure, June.
Thanks.
Sarah, could you check if I'm still co-host? Because I was lost for a second.
Oh, good point. Okay, now you are again.
Perfect. Okay, I'm joining room 3 right now.
Okay. Sorry, Robbie, I'm just moving you now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good conversation. Annette, can I move you to a different group?
Nice hat, Annette. Love it. Happy holidays. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had good, productive time to talk and get to know each other. Welcome back, Daisy. You are sideways, but it's nice to see you in any direction. So there we go. Gravity is shifted in Uganda right now. I'm so happy to see everybody, and I wonder if we want to get a quick report out from any key points or top line items from the different groups. Somebody from group 2 perhaps would like to report out. Who even knows which groups they were in?
Well, I'll report out. We were in group 3 on the
Okay, go
on
ahead.
the systems
Hold on.
change action.
I'm sorry. I was the note taker. I didn't know we were group 2, but you
No,
can go ahead.
you're group 3. You're group 3.
Oh,
Annette.
okay, sorry.
So yeah, so we in group 3 we had a lot of discussion on how exchanges and coordination on among chapters would be a great way to strengthen our capacity for building systems change strategies. So that was our focus.
Nice. Great, and let's look forward to more of that in the coming year. Okay, so what about the other group? Was there a group?
There was a
We were
chapter
group-
capacity.
We were group 2, which is resource mobilization, and we didn't discuss who will report out, but Steve facilitated and Chad took notes. So can I please put one of you on the spot and ask you to report back?
Sure.
Thanks, Michelle. I know Chad did a great work.
Oh, you don't know that for sure, Steve. Wait until you see how poor my notes are. So the first question was, we talked about whether or not the strategy component was useful. And I think it was pretty unanimous among all of us that yes, it's useful to learn more about ways to mobilize resources locally. And particularly about ways that we can learn strategies, and a lot of it is about like working together to find shared strategies, and that was something Mamadou brought up, and the national chapters could be a really good platform for all of us to learn from that. But Kate and I also spoke about how it needs to be regional and specific. We then moved on to questions about how it works, and we all talked about how we didn't have many direct questions about the actual mobilization, but more kind of where do we go from here? And Mamadou had a good question about how COVID affects all of this. COVID has made fundraising very difficult, particularly if you're doing fundraising through events. So what lessons have we learned from that? And how can all the chapters really learn from each other and some of the barriers that they've found for this? And then we talked a bit about the questions for the Global Secretariat. We talked about fostering stronger connections between the group, and we talked about how we can really use the Global Secretariat's help in amplifying reports or programs or projects through social media or through their own networks to bring attention both to the national chapters, but also the individual actors in there. And then also, if we can, much like today, get more direct strategies on how we can partner and share resources also. And then our last discussion question that we got to was how we make this work useful. Mainly a lot of the discussion was on the same sort of things, like more refresher trainings on mapping the donor landscape and bringing new strategies and new ideas like this to us, and also ways that we can work directly with government and bring kind of shared structures into play. And that was from our team.
Wow, you covered a lot of ground. Thanks. I just took some great notes from that. Yeah, so we really want to buckle down this year and get practical, get specific, and get moving forward. And I hear that in what you're reporting out. I was in the other group. Does anyone, and was there a French group or? No.
Yes.
Okay, can we hear from the French group?
Yeah, from the French group. We were only 2 in French group. And we discussed the different components. Are they really useful? We found that the 3 components are very useful. And in terms of functionality, we can see the link. The structure as a container of change, resources needed for action, and the third aspect is really indeed action. So structure, resources, and action are 3 linked components of the strategy, and we find them really relevant. And do we have a question? The question we have is, come really in 3. What are the specific support that national chapter need from the Global Secretariat? So those questions come there. Peer learning, particularly tools to implement the movement logic and the movement theory of change, particularly. And we would like really new ideas and new thinking, like what we have learned today with the global change the game academy. Yeah, we would like new blood like this to support the trend of progress of our chapters. And yeah, what will make this work? I think those are the essential elements from our discussion.
Great, thank you, Pascal and
Can
Isabel.
I just add that? Well, I was
Yes.
sorry, I don't know if Pascal said,
Yeah,
but for me,
Isabel.
like, like I was thinking, for sure I'm new, but I was thinking about, I'm in Ottawa right now, Ottawa, the Canadian capital, and I was thinking, like, people in Canada are quite ignorant and really don't care about what's happening globally. So for sure I'm new to MCLD and all, but I was wondering, like, you know, coming back to yesterday USAID and all, I was also wondering if there was a way to create some kind of bridge or solidarity or network between the local and global chapters. You know, like, I don't know, maybe if we talk more locally, how global crises and what's happening globally also affects Canadians, for example. I don't know if that's a way of, because really it's really shattering how Canadians don't care what's going on. It's really incredible. So, and I was also thinking maybe for this, there could be like a sort of common vision, you know, like, where is this common vision, especially for looking at the other crises? Is there a way to do transformative at the community level, but with a common vision? I mean, with all these crises that we're in, anyways, I don't know, maybe it's totally out of, comment on dit, dans le champ, là, out in the field. But anyways, because I learned a lot with Pascal, because that was good, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. And I will do a little very quick report out from my group, which was that we were also talking with Vincent from Germany, and this idea of networks that June mentioned. I think, you know, in my work with the national chapters, like the Liberia chapter, you know, Benin chapter, Nigeria chapter, every single chapter, they're so inspiring, and the people are so incredible that if we could connect these networks, maybe Canadian networks, German networks, or whatever, and connect them in some kind of meaningful, like, person to person, peer to peer, adult to adult way, where, you know, we learn from each other, but at the same time I think, raise the consciousness of people in high-income countries to understand what is needed, which is really not that much in the grand scheme of things. It's not like $100 billion or whatever. It's sometimes just some really targeted financial support and technical support so that it's not just a handout. And I think the chapters are a vehicle for that. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I know that we are getting low on time, and John has a couple of announcements to make. So I want to thank everybody so much. If you have additional thoughts or comments, please email me or call me. We can set up a call. And we look forward to taking this forward in 2022 in super practical ways that will make a big difference. And every single person who's on this call today, thank you so much for participating. Thank you for your incredible work. We met Najat today, who we hadn't met, and we met Mansan, and we met all kinds of new people. So please sign up for the mailing list, come back and keep your opinions and ideas flowing so that we can factor them in. And John, I will turn it over to you for announcements. Thanks again, everyone.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Anne. And so we have a couple of big events coming up that we are organizing. So this is both an announcement and a request. We are preparing an event for the Commission on Social Development. I need to know in the next week if you would like to nominate a speaker from your chapter or from the movement to speak on this issue of really mechanisms for funding the community-led development in your country. One of the things that's big missing to fulfill this point, inclusive and resilient recovery from COVID-19 and for sustainable livelihoods, well-being, and dignity for all, is having a breakthrough in funding for civil society. So that's going to be our focus. And if you want to be a speaker on that subject, please let me know. And then we also are going to have a side event at the Commission for the Status of Women. And specifically what we're looking for are inspiring young female climate champions. You know, was mentioned on our call last month when we looked at community-led climate action that the Global South has millions of Greta Thunbergs that just aren't being heard. So we want to find those inspiring young female climate action champions and feature them on our side event. So if you have a nominee for that, please let me know. Also, you'll be getting a calendar invite for our next month's meeting, same time, same day of the week, the last Wednesday of January. And speaking of networks, I want to get leaders from other community-led development networks. We're not the only one anymore. There are more and more of them. And I want us all to reflect together on what is the state of community-led development. 2021 was such a painful year with COVID, but it also really put a spotlight on community leadership and the importance of community-led processes. So that'll be our, that will be our day of reflection and getting a shared understanding of where we are and where we're going. So that's all from me. We're now exactly at the end of our time. So if we could, everybody wants to open their microphones and say goodbye, we'll end the call.
John,
So,
I had a COVID announcement, call announcement. Sorry.
I thought you didn't. So over to you.
Goodbye, Dr. John.
Well, yeah, a quick announcement.
Goodbye.
So,
Goodbye, Jinde. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Julie.
goodbye to people who need to leave.
Goodbye.
Speak,
Okay,
good,
we'll
Jen,
just
speak.
end it.
And turn on your camera.
Yeah.
It's the COVID calls. We just want
Goodbye,
to
Dr.
know
John.
that we've had we've had to pause the COVID calls for the last couple of months with the number of activities, but we heard a lot of interest in doing something specifically on the learnings around monitoring and evaluation, which is community led and which, organizations can do irrespective of their size. So we are organizing a special workshop in the new year. It'll be end of January or early February, where we will be doing the workshop, where we're actually going to look at some very simple and easy tools for community-led MEL. If you are interested, we will circulate a list for you to sign up. We need to know how many participants to be able to really organize that workshop. But we will be doing that. And meanwhile, we'll also send you a survey. It's been almost 2 years. Next year, it'll be 2 years since we really started the COVID calls. We really want to know if people find it useful for us to continue or whether we should conclude with the MEL workshop. So that's it. Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, now everybody can end the call and say goodbye. So bye, everybody. Have a wonderful, those of you who have holidays, have a wonderful holiday.
Bye.
Bye.
Have fun.
Goodbye. Happy holidays all.
Bye.
Happy holidays.